Major League Baseball and its players are increasingly focused on a plan that could allow them to start the season as early as May. The plan, sources said, would dictate that all 30 teams play games at stadiums with no fans in the Phoenix area, including the Arizona Diamondbacks Chase Field, along with 10 spring training facilities and perhaps other nearby fields. Players, coaching staff, and other essential personnel should be sequestered at local hotels where they would live in a relative isolation and travel only to and from the stadium. Jeff Passan, who covers Major League Baseball, was on with SVP and was a part of the Dan Le Batard show talking yesterday about how weird this story can be.
Like the entire thing. I mean, I remember, I think it was back in the mid-'90s, Biodome with Pauly Shore might have been the worst movie I've ever seen. Like, it was really, really bad. And here we are, like 20 years later, and baseball is considering putting a biodome on in Phoenix so that players can play amid the coronavirus pandemic. And they're doing it, Dan, because there really are no alternatives otherwise. You know, the league just put out a statement that essentially said we're considering all sorts of options at this point. There are not a lot of options, though, and the truth is MLB wants to play, the players want to play, and if they are going to play, this might be the best of a really awful situation.
First off, Jeff, how are you going to mention Biodome and not mention Stephen Baldwin? Secondly, yeah, look, I actually had this in the document yesterday, but we got so loaded down with guests that we never discussed it. It's definitely intriguing what they're talking about doing, and maybe it is kind of a wild solution to this current situation in which we live. But, I mean, I think one of the first hurdles to get over, and this is probably actually already on the cusp of getting figured out, if not already, is how rapid is the testing, how widely available is the testing. But there still are a lot of barriers of entry here, right? Just the logistics from, like, cleaning staff, security, how much personnel do you need, how do you televise it? One interesting thing, Jordy, we got these really nice cameras in the studio, and they give out good quality. They have this same camera up in the LSU athletic building that is controlled by the SEC network in Charlotte. So, like, if you didn't want to have cameramen, I feel like maybe you install some of these or something. Like, there's just a lot logistically to figure out, but I do like that people are trying to get very creative, although they haven't quite reached the levels of creativity that Dana White did yesterday.
More from Passan talking about what would need to happen to make this scenario take place for Major League Baseball.
Well, we're going to have much bigger rosters, and that is a big part of this whole plan because, Scott, when you take into account the possibility of even a small outbreak inside of a clubhouse, as well as playing in the heat, which in Phoenix is going to be 100, 110 degrees during the summer, you're going to need a big roster, and that's something that I think Major League Baseball is willing to get on board with, and certainly the players are going to want.
Mike Gundy, head coach of Oklahoma State's college football team, yesterday had a teleconference where he was talking about anticipating getting his players back as early as May 1st. Here was Gundy yesterday from that said teleconference.
We need to get back to playing football for a variety of reasons if the medical people say we can. We got to have a plan, and so let's just stay on schedule. Everybody needs to relax, and I'm not taking away from the danger of people getting sick. You have the virus, stay healthy, try to do what we can to help people that are sick, and we're losing lives, which is just terrible. But then the second part of it is we still have to schedule and continue to move forward as life goes on and do everything we can to help those people. And I'm thinking in 3 or 4 weeks we could have the test ready available for people that aren't sick based on can we test the employees, the 100 people that work in our building, and we can swab them and clear them to come into the building and get back to work. Once we've done that, I'm looking to start testing the players and bring them back. How fast that can happen based on the tests that are available, I can't say right now, but that's the plan.
More from Gundy. And following Gundy's comments yesterday, the university had to come out and issue a statement saying, look, we will adhere to the advice of public health experts who are making informed decisions in the best interests of the citizens of our nation and state based on sound scientific data, Oklahoma State. But here was more from Gundy yesterday.
Football pulls about $36 million in television revenue. I think basketball pulls $4 million during the tournament. I don't know for sure. When you're talking about continuing the economy in this state, if you have to play, plus you need to play anyway. Everybody needs to see football. Even if you just watch it on TV, it's going to make people feel better. Again, medical people say it's okay based on the situation we're in. We have remedies. We have more testing available. You're talking about making $36 million. So the people that work in this building and work over the other side of the football stadium in Gallagher in the athletic department, they're in a separate entity from the university. We're trying to find a way to pay everybody's salary and keep the economy going, because if you're paying salaries and people are working, then you're keeping the economy going, and it gives us the best chance as a state to stay on our feet. So, yes, if you have to play with 0 people, which I don't think is going to happen, yes, you play.
I mean, the most confusing part about, and a lot of his comments were rooted in the economy and driving things financially. Does he not realize the possible problem or disconnect that this causes for the NCAA when he's advocating for unpaid labor to come back and work, even if normal students are not, because he wants to make money? I mean, just on its surface, like, I get what he's trying to get at there, because everybody's worried economically. We all are right now. But if you do that, you're going to have to pay the players. Like is he not seeing the disconnect there? I don't know. I think Gundy's just, man, but whatever. You will never find a more egocentric human being than a quirky college football coach. Yeah. Especially not one that makes $5 million a year and has ultimate job security, which is interesting given that he's like 8-10 in the Big 12 the last 2 years. Imagine making $5 million a year to go under 500 in your conference.
Amazing, the similarity in inflection and delivery from Joe Exotic and Mike Gundy.
Yeah.
I mean, they sound almost exactly alike.
I guess, is that an Oklahoma accent then?
Gundy, Sammy, give me a little, just the beginning of one of these Gundy sound bites.
We need to get back to playing football for a variety of reasons if the medical people say we can.
Get this man to say Carol Baskin. Like, somebody has to get this man. Carol Baskin would come back to work. No, the one thing I do like about all this is that Gundy, at least, even if it's not on purpose, is accidentally being very honest about how the administration actually views football players. They're not student athletes. They are athletes that go to school, right? He doesn't care if regular students have to be on campus or not. The team needs to be there. They're there for football. They're there to make the state money. They're there to make the school money. They're there to drive the economy. So, like, there's an accidental, really raw honesty in everything he's saying. And, yeah, that's why the pay for play and all these names. That's why all this is going to continue to gain momentum. Mike Gundy laid it out for you right there.
Central Plumbing Company brings you off the bench daily here. 925-8552 is the phone number. I stopped into El Rio Grande Mexican restaurant and took some take home earlier this week. Raul was telling me about the time they were spending at home quarantining, had some problems with their plumbing. They called Central Plumbing Company at 925-8552. Jay Payne sent the trusted crew right over to Raul's house over there, made the repair. It was easy. 925-8552. Remember, online, centralplumbing.org. Last story of our headlines today. How about this in the NFL? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have unveiled new uniforms. They're not going back to the creamsicle colors. The new uniforms look a lot like the ones they wore last season. The biggest change is in the numerals. The new uniforms are very similar to the ones that they wore when they won the Super Bowl back in 2002. The Atlanta Falcons also debuted new uniforms this week, so a couple of new looks around the NFC South.
Yeah, the Bucks new are kind of old, and while I love the creamsicles as well, we were kind of talking about before the show started. The only problem with committing full time to the creamsicles, and they will wear them one time at least, is just that they were terrible when they wore those uniforms. I think they went like 0-14. I think this new design is an effort to call back to the glory days, like the only glory days in Tampa Bay history, which was that late 90s, early 2000s window in which they wore these. Although I really liked what Devin White was modeling, the kind of, what you call it, like a gunmetal black, almost like a primer black. Pewter. Okay, yeah. The all pewters look pretty nice.
Those are your headlines. What's trending here on Off the Bench.